Before I proceed with my comments, if people wish to address Exhibit 2, Court Exhibit 2.
Judge, I'd still ask for 15 days.
First of all,
and I would also ask that you issue the orders of protection as well for another year.
Mr. McNamara requested that the orders of protection be reissued for an additional year.
Firstly, as a citizen, I, along with you, am allowed to express my opinions in an open and free manner. As a judge, I'm circumscribed in what I can say within the bounds of the judicial ethics rules as a private citizen. As a judge, I have an obligation to apply the law and to be fair and impartial. The laws are written by the legislature, not by the judiciary. The judiciary interprets the laws and keeps the laws within the bounds of constitutionality. To each of the defendants, I've reviewed all the materials. I've read them all that were introduced into evidence. And I understand your position and your beliefs. War on any level is not good. War is evil. It leads to senseless killing and destruction. Whether it's the pilot in a plane several thousand feet in the air dropping a bomb, the missile operator on a ship or a submarine pushing a button, or a drone operator several thousand miles away on a joystick or pushing a button, there's no difference. There's going to be death and destruction. Often it will involve innocent civilians and children. It's a cold fact of war. No reasonable person, in my mind, would ever wish for war. And I think that at times, diplomatic measures have been used to avoid that possibility of war. Unfortunately, there are those in this world that are either power-hungry, tyrannical, and they must be stood up to, lest we all become lambs led to the slaughter. Now, whether you agree with how they're being stood up to is a matter for interpretation and each individual's opinion. I applaud Ms. Bello in indicating she's talked to her leaders about this because they are truly the ones to make the decision. I think I brought that up when I questioned some of you as you testified here, why you have not seen to redress your grievances directly to the leaders, power brokers, so to speak, to make sure there's a change. In my mind, however, this is not what this case is directly about. I've said this before, that morally correct does not necessarily equal legally correct. If you feel that the moral or international law violations exist, there is a remedy in my mind. You can address that to an international tribunal. I said that on the first trial. I'm saying it again. Now, one of the prosecution witnesses that I heard here was attempting to limit any right you had to exercise your constitutional rights. But the exercise of constitutional rights is a delicate balance. It has limits when it impinges on the rights of others. Each person has their own constitutional rights, and when the two conflict, it's a delicate balance on who should have the authority versus the other. In other words, these individuals that it impinges on also are guaranteed their constitutional rights to freedom and liberty. In my mind, clearly you would have not been arrested had your actions not blocked that traffic and vehicular pedestrian traffic. I think that was over and over again the testimony I heard from the prosecution witnesses. The fact that there was the blocking of the obstruction of the entrance and the inconvenience, public inconvenience, annoyance, etc., that resulted in nuisance that resulted for those individuals was the determining factor here. Clearly, in the testimony I heard from several of the defendants, the alternative decision was made to obstruct that vehicular and pedestrian traffic, so that, I think I'm quoting some of the testimony I heard, that your message would be heard, that they would stand up and take notice of you versus protesting in another area and not obstructing that traffic. I sort of agree with Mr. Colville and Mr. Hines that this is a tough decision. And I have thought long and hard as to appropriate sanctions to be imposed. I do not know where this stops. And it seems to be escalating, and escalating in a bad way. Because in the videos, as I explained, I observed a car that looked as if it almost hit one of the defendants. And I heard testimony from one of the witnesses, prosecution witnesses, that in another incident, somebody almost got hurt. And somebody in a car ran through the blockade. I observed confrontations, I think it was at the one of the gates, where individuals got out of their cars and came up to the defendants. I don't know what was said because there was no audio. I can imagine what was said in my own mind. But at some point, you're going to be confronted by an individual who's going to get violent. I can see it happening. And the potential is there. I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't think anybody on that base wants to see anybody hurt. And that was over and over again testified by the Chief Master Sergeant. But the bottom line is, it has to stop at some point. There has to be some consideration given here for the future. I'm sure that nothing I do here today is going to make this stop. I've heard it over and over again from you. But I also have a duty to this community, and this community has suffered. It's been inconvenienced, not only financially, but in the available resources caused by the actions. Again, nobody is limiting your right to speak. All that is being asked of you is that you do so in a manner consistent with the rights of others and with common courtesy towards others, not so like-minded. While it remains entirely up to you to make the appropriate choice for the future, no matter what I do here today, that's going to be your individual choice. I can only send a message based upon the considerations that I just outlined. Therefore, as to each of the defendants, firstly, it is the sentence and judgment of this court that you be sentenced as follows. Firstly, I know Ms. Kramer raised the issue of the orders of protection relative to a domestic violence situation. That's where they commonly occur. However, when you look at 530.13 of the criminal procedure law, it does not restrict it to that. It actually does not even have any parameters relative to violence occurring, etc. It's left to the judge's discretion as to good cause. And I'm finding that I have good cause to reissue those orders of protection. I am issuing the full permanent order of protection, which will be in effect for a 2-year period to February 7th, 2016, directing you to stay away from Earl Evans, his home, school, business, place of employment, refrain from communication or any other contact by mail, telephone, email, voicemail, or other electronic or any other means with him, and refrain from assaulting, stalking, harassment, aggravated harassment, menacing, reckless endangerment, strangulation, criminal obstruction of breathing or circulation, disorderly conduct, criminal mischief, sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, forcible touching, intimidation, threats, or any criminal offense against him or members of his family. I know you don't agree with this, but I'm asking each of you individually, do you understand what I've read to you? Ms. Hennessy.
Yes.
Claire T. Brady.
I hear you.
Mark Amelia Carver.
I guess I don't understand how the whole base can be personified in a single person.
Can't hear you, Mark. Can you come to the podium?
I guess I don't understand how the whole base can come to be personified in a single person, Earl Evans, who may be transferred to somewhere. I guess this makes sense.
He's transferred, and what I'm saying is that he's not there, it doesn't restrict you. Ms. Bello, do you understand what I've read?
Yes, I do, sir.
Kramer. No, you don't agree with it.
I guess I would just like there to be some public declaration that it is not an issue of intimidation, threat, or harm, but one of inconvenience. He's annoyed that he thought that we blocked the gates. In no way was any of our behavior, was it ever or ever will be, intimidating, threatening, or causing harm. So I just would like you to publicly declare that that's the justification for the issuance of the order, the inconvenience of the base.
The orders are being issued based upon good cause and filing on the totality of the circumstances. That's an issue you can address on appeal. If I'm wrong, they'll reverse me.
Well, we'll see each other again.
Well, you won't see me on the appeal, but at some juncture you will.
Thank
That's out
you.
of the record.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergman, do you understand what I've read?
Yes.
Ms. Grady Flores, do you understand what I've read? She's indicating yes. Mr. Colville?
I understand and I refuse to comply.
Mr. Hines?
I understand.
Mr. Adams is absent. Mr. Parker? Ms. Wheeling?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Canaan?
I find it pretty surrealistic. It's like I understand Alice in Wonderland.
Do you understand what I read to you?
I heard what you read. I understood the words.
Do you understand what I've read?
Most of what you read, Your Honor, except for that part of us not wanting to harm anybody and the people at the base not wanting anybody harmed. If that were true, we wouldn't get here.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would ask each of you to sign indicating you're receiving a copy. If you don't want to sign, please indicate to my clerks. They'll indicate refusal to sign on there, and they'll serve you with a copy. Is any? Why don't you come on up, and if you want, let her know. Is everybody refusing to sign? All defendants?
I'm refusing to sign.
Okay, Claire P. Grady. Everybody's refusing to sign?
I refuse to sign.
Ms. Bello? I'll go through the list. Ms. Hennessy?
Yes, I refuse.
Mr. Cecilia Carter?
Yeah, I don't want to say that.
Ms. Kramer indicated her refusal. Mr. Bergman?
Refuse to sign, sir.
Ms. Grady Flores? Mr. Colville?
I refuse.
Mr. Hines?
Yes, I refuse.
Mr. Adams is not here. Ms. Wheeler?
I refuse to sign.
Mr. Canan?
I refuse.
And Mr. Rick? He's indicating he refuses. My clerks will prepare the copies, and I'll wait a moment, and they'll serve you with each with a copy of it. I'll do it now.
Excuse me, Your Honor. We have some questions about the interpretation of the order. Where is the proper place to direct those questions?
Well, it would be a legal, you're a lawyer, but you don't have a lawyer, you're pro se.
I mean, for example, if Colonel Evans were to take a month's vacation in Hawaii, and there's an article about that in the paper, so we all know it, the order is not in effect for that month in terms of our presence at the base. So it's not his presence so much as...
It's all those factors.
Martha Hennessy. Eric Grady Flores. Eric Grady Flores.
Thank you.
Here we go, Mark. Christian Lyon.
Kramer out there?